Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz, your host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, ESPN linked the Las Vegas Raiders to several NFL free agents in an article titled 2026 NFL Free Agency, Best Team Fits for the Top 50 Players. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to discuss the names that ESPN linked to the Raiders and ultimately give you my idea whether or not the Raiders should go out and get those players. And then at the very end of the show, I have them ranked in terms of here's the number one guy I would pursue, and here's the guy at the very bottom that I would pursue. Luckily, free agency starts very, very soon. On Monday, March 9th at noon Eastern time is when the legal tampering period will begin. I'm going to tell you all this right now. I am going to be live several hours before that time because I expect the Raiders to be aggressive. And I know I'm not the only one that expects the Raiders to be aggressive because, hell, if you got this much money and you got a brand new regime after firing all the coaches that we have, if you don't take advantage of free agency this offseason, I'm going to be very disappointed. And again, I know I'm not the only one. But the fact that the Raiders are expected to have a big free agency, I want fans out there to hit that subscribe button. I want fans to join me for live free agency coverage every single day during that week. And anytime the Raiders make a big-time signing, I'm going to be here telling you exactly what I think ends up going down. So hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. That way you don't miss a thing. Let's go to the very first player that ESPN did link to the Raiders. And I should tell you this. The number that you see next to the player is essentially where ESPN ended up ranking them in the top 50. So Tyler Linderbaum has been my number one free agent for the Raiders. According to ESPN, he is the number 3 overall ranked free agent. Now, this is the only player on today's show that doesn't literally get linked exactly to the Raiders. So what ends up happening in this article is they break down who's the perfect fit for each player. Tyler Linderbaum was connected to the New York Giants, but there is a quote in this article, which is why I decided to throw it in the video. The Giants would be the top offensive lineman, would land the top offensive lineman in free agency, but let's keep an eye on the Raiders here as well. They could also use Linderbaum's tone-setting mentality on the interior, which is why Linderbaum has been the perfect free agent target for me all off season long because he's a dominant run blocker. I do think he's athletic enough based on some of the tape that I've seen in his first few years in Baltimore, based on what I saw at Iowa. And if you were to put him next to JPJ, I think I've said that statement probably 100 times already this offseason because I am a believer in investing in the trenches, which is where the silver and black need to go. I believe in Colt Miller. I believe in Jackson Powers-Johnson. But outside of those top two guys, I think that you can make an argument that there could be a lot of moving parts around, especially with Dylan Parham being a free agent. Let's go to the next player here that was linked to the Las Vegas Raiders. It's Chiefs cornerback Jaylon Watson, and he comes in here at number 16 on the top 50 list. This is why ESPN believes that the Raiders should go out and sign Watson. Watson, who had 64 tackles with the Chiefs in 2025, is scheme versatile. And the Raiders could land one of the top corners in free agency with this move to upgrade the perimeter of their defense. He has the length to challenge and press, the route awareness to play top down on the ball in zone. If you don't know, he's coming off a career year where he had 2 interceptions in Kansas City last season. He did miss 2 games in 2025. He missed 11 in 2024, which the biggest reason why that I bring that up is because right now as it stands, we have Darian Porter. We got the Camryn Richardson, but with Eric Stokes getting ready to hit the open market, with Darnay Holmes getting ready to hit the open market, we need to be able to know that the corner that we end up signing this offseason is a corner that we can rely on. And not going to lie to y'all, I'm a little bit wary of Watson simply because this past year was a good year. Then you look at some of the other years there in 2023, 2022, he was good. But there was also, I think, a reason why he was drafted in the 7th round. He's not overly athletic. He is a physical player, which I do think matches what the Raiders could potentially have. But at $12.5 million on that Spytek market value, I did think it was a little bit rich for my blood. But then again, if you're talking fit, He is an interesting fit with the way that I think that the Raiders are going to try to play defense this year. Rob Leonard, the new defensive coordinator, I expect him to want to bring the pressure. Also, a great thing that teams could try to do when you have as many holes as what the Raiders do, and we got to face the facts. The Raiders might have to cut a few corners this offseason on offense, on defense. And if I'm the Raiders, I would try to cut more of those corners on the defensive side. I'm not saying literally cut cornerbacks. I'm saying when you have so many holes, you got to cut a corner or two. So why not try to add a player that gives you some versatility? So instead of going out and going, well, maybe I need a corner and a safety, can I sign a player like Jaylon Watson who does offer you a lot of that versatility? And I do think that he is best suited as an outside corner. But I also know that he can play in press coverage. And he might also be able to drop back to safety. Like, if you were a Raiders fan that was upset that the Silver and Black did not bring back Nate Hobbs, and it was actually the right decision. Stokes, we got him at 1 year, $4 million. Hobbs really struggled with injuries and just struggled in general in Green Bay. But the reason why that I bring that up is because the way that Jaylon Watson plays kind of reminds me a little bit of a more unathletic Nate Hobbs, but I think he's cleaner in terms of technique overall. If you want a guy that can tackle, sure, he doesn't have that top-end elite speed, but for a team that's got needs just about everywhere, you could assign an outside corner, and if you were in a pinch and you need to play him at safety, I do think it is a role that he could do. Coming up next here, though, we're going to talk about a wide receiver free agent target. ESPN believes that Klint Kubiak and this regime should target. And actually, it's a player that I have brought up a few times on the Raiders Report. The last time I brought him up was a free agency video that I did, and based on the perfect positions, the perfect players at each position that the Raiders should target, this wide receiver was in my top 3. I'll tell you who that is in just a moment, but if you don't know St. Patrick's Day merch, we're launching it here on the Raiders Report, and if you want to join my Sin City drinking team, hey, man, you got to get your hands on one of these shirts. It's chatsports.com/LVgreen. The shirt is less than $30, so if you want, it's going to be down in the comments. It's going to be down in the description of today's show. Also, I never know what to wear on St. Patty's Day. Get a St. Patty's Day shirt. Get a Sin City drinking team shirt. Join our drinking team here, because you know what? The team is growing. I want to give a shout-out to Richie J., Oscar J., David C., David Carr, Anthony H., Todd P. Now, I can't, legally I'm actually not allowed to put the last names of everybody, but I do think that certain people will know who they are. At the end of the day, if you spend time and your money on this show, I'm going to do everything in my power to let you know, like, yeah, man, of course, I appreciate it. And if I'm telling you this right now, if I see y'all wearing a Sin City drinking team shirt out in public, here's my deal to you. We're going to get some beers. We're going to throw one back. We're going to show them how the Sin City drinking team ends up getting it down. Let's go to the next free agent target here for the Las Vegas Raiders, according to ESPN, wide receiver Romeo Doubs. And Doubs is a interesting player because I think a lot of times Raiders fans look at the fact that we need a wide receiver one. That ain't going to be Romeo Doubs. And if it is Romeo Doubs, that's a really big issue for the Raiders. I think you're kind of looking at somebody who is a good 2, good 3 for Las Vegas. But here's what ESPN had to say. The Raiders can add their wide receiver room for new coach Klint Kubiak by signing Doubs. His ability to uncover and work the heavy traffic areas of the field would be great for anticipated top pick Fernando Mendoza. A reliable pass catcher, Doubs had 55 grabs for 724 yards with the Packers in 2025. Now, the one thing that I like about him is I do think he is a willing blocker. I'm not saying he's a good blocker, but I do think in the Klint Kubiak offense, you got to be able to bring in guys that say, okay, I understand my job, I know what I need to do, and I got to go out there, and if I got to block, I got to block. He has gotten significantly better. Like, if you look at Doubs the first 2 years in the NFL, and then you look at him now, clearly a much better run blocker, which I think is encouraging because that tells me that he's coachable. But 4 straight seasons, every single year that he's had in Green Bay, over 40 catches. And then you look at the last 3 seasons, this seems to be a player that is starting to understand how he can be used in offenses. And I think that you're starting to see how he can impact the Las Vegas Raiders because, yes, he's not an old receiver, but he does at least bring a little bit of veteran leadership because of how many seasons he's played. I mean, what's crazy is he would be literally the veteran on this Raiders wide receiver room. He's better. He's older than Trey Tucker, definitely more experienced than Jack Bech. But with Tyler Lockett and Alex Bachman hitting the open market, this is one of the youngest wide receiver rooms in the National Football League, and there's no doubt about it. We need wide receiver depth. So if you're the Raiders and you wanted to add a free agent like Doubs, I still think that means you could draft a receiver, and this year's draft class does seem to be one of the deeper positions overall. But my scouting report that I had on him that I think is important for Raiders fans to see is he is solid in contested catches and back shoulder balls. I think Fernando Mendoza, day one, he's going to step onto an NFL field. He's going to thread tight windows. You need a guy who's got the balls to be able to kind of go into those tight windows and be able to catch the football and not be afraid to take a lick on the chin. Don't get me wrong. The Guardian cap always makes me laugh with Doubs, but I also respect it because he goes, you know what? I don't care what I look like. I got to go out there and I got to play football, and I need to make sure that I'm able to do it to the best of my ability. The back shoulder balls, that's what Mendoza does well. I think Doubs is good with that in terms of anticipation. Versatile route runner, and I think he can do a lot of different things for you, especially in the red zone. Not a lot of yards after the catch ability. He's not going to catch a ball, and he's not going to take it 40, 50 yards down the field. He's going to catch it. He's going to pick up first downs. He's going to move the chains, and he's going to be an unselfish wide receiver, which is what the Raiders need if they go out and they sign somebody in free agency. So the last two players that we just talked about, Jaylen Watson, cornerback, Romeo Doubs, wide receiver. If you could pick only one player out of these two right here that you would want this regime to sign, I want you to let me know down in the comments section because you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, scroll on down. My answer coming up here in just a moment. The reason why I'm going to type my JW for Jaylen Watson is cornerback is a bigger need for this team than a wide receiver 2 or 3. If Romeo Doubs would be our wide receiver 1, again, that would make me a little bit nervous, but to me, that's not what Romeo Doubs is. So that's not how I would view him. Jaylen Watson, on the other hand, if he was signed, he would be the cornerback 1 on our roster. And I do think that he is a better player than at corner than what Doubs is at wide receiver. It's close, but overall, those are the players that, again, I'm putting Watson slightly over Doubs here a little bit. Let's also go to another reason. I guess the other reason I would also throw in, I think wide receiver is deeper than cornerback in this year's draft. Zion Johnson, guard, ranked number 33 on ESPN's list. The cool part about the Raiders, you're going to get linked to a lot of free agents. Do you know why? You got a lot of money, and you got a lot of needs as well. The Raiders can upgrade their offensive line with Johnson. He'd play the left guard spot in Klint Kubiak's system, using his mobility in the zone run game. Plus, Johnson's youth and durability fit the rebuild in Las Vegas. He is just entering his prime playing years with a 90.7% pass block win rate over his 4-year career with the Chargers. Now, I did mention Johnson and my top 10 offensive linemen that I want the Raiders to pursue this offseason. If you want to go check it out, it's literally, I knew the Raiders got to invest in the trenches, so I literally rank them from 10 all the way down to 1. So Johnson is a name that you guys have seen before, and the fact that he's 26 years old, I agree. I think that he's about to hit his prime. He's coachable. The one thing that where I want to say, like, you got to give Zion a little bit of benefit of the doubt. Think about how many injuries that Chargers offensive line has sustained. And when you have that many injuries, there's a lot of moving parts. Especially on the O-line, chemistry is important. Continuity is important. So despite some of the numbers, like, he's not as great on PFF compared to some of these other guys. But I'll tell you this right now. I do wonder if Zion Johnson could be a really good fit with Klint Kubiak. He's 26 years old. He allowed a career-low 3 sacks in 2025 despite all of the issues that the Chargers had losing the players that they did. And the fact that he's played left guard the past 3 seasons and he played right guard as a rookie, I do need a little bit of versatility. And I need the versatility because it allows me then to properly evaluate Caleb Rogers, Charles Grant. Do we bring back Jordan Meredith? It lets you look at DJ Glaze because the more and more versatility you have on this offensive line, I think the better this offensive line is just going to be from the top bottom. So at the very beginning of today's show, I told you I would rank the 4 free agents that ESPN linked to the Raiders. In terms of priority, here's how I would do it. I would put Tyler Linderbaum at number 1. Shocker. Number 2 would be Jaylen Watson, but Watson, Zion Johnson, and Romeo Doubs are all very, very close to me. Watson is number 2. Johnson's going to be number 3 because I think guard is a bigger need than wide receiver 2. If this name was Alec Pierce, I'd slap it right up into here. But because I view Doubs as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, even on the Raiders, this is why these are the top targets based on that ESPN article I think the Raiders should target.